Hi, I am back with a Stamping 101, a back to basics type of thing. And I wanted to talk with you about the tools that I use the most when it comes to paper crafting. There are some things I reach for over and over again. And as a matter of fact, I keep on my desk in a little jar because I use them so frequently. I don't want to assume that people know all of these tools or how to use them. And that's one of the reasons why one of your best tools of all that you could use is me as your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, or someone else who is a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator if you already have somebody. And if you don't, I would be thrilled if you used me as your demonstrator. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I live in Northeast Ohio, and I am here to answer questions for you. I'm here to help you get the most out of your crafting with paper crafting and stamps. I can help answer those questions. I can help find answers for you. When you go to a big box store, most often they are not going to be doing that kind of thing with you, but I am. That's what I do. So I would like to say, hey, one of the top tools that hopefully you could use would be me. I am with Julia Sue's Stamping. Thank you so much for joining me here. And I am passionate about stamping, coloring, paper crafting, and making cards. Most of all, I'm passionate about sharing the fun of doing all of that with you. So I have my tools spread out all in front of me here. If you could see my workspace, you would say, yeah, it's all over. And you can see some of it over here. Um, and I would like to take the camera, turn it around to the workspace. As always, I'm going to warn you that it, I'll probably get my fingers in there. And I want to make sure there's nothing else I wanted to talk about super quick. I am going to make a fun fold card while I'm showing you these different tools so that you can see how they get used, hopefully help answer some of the questions for you. Let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about that I use all the time is the paper trimmer. The paper trimmer is a huge tool that is used, I mean, and not huge as in size because it's really quite thin and doesn't take up much space, but boy is it something I use constantly, and every single day when I am crafting I use this. It has an arm that swings out and goes all the way to over 17 inches and then clicks back in securely. This arm helps hold your papers in place and is very nice use. Has a little curved place for you to lift up easily right there. A cutting blade that you can replace if after a while your blade needs to be replaced. Replacements are sold, as well as a scoring blade, and replacements are sold of the scoring blade as well. But you know what, I don't think I've replaced my scoring blade. Maybe I have, but I can't remember that I have. The cutting blade I tend to be able to use for, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months, maybe a little longer even. I don't replace them very often. They come, I think, in fours, in a pack of four, so it's very nice. I have a piece of cardstock I'm going to use for this card today, and I'm cutting it at 5.5. So I put the paper into the trimmer, and then I'm going to just simply pull it down. I'm not putting pressure on it in any way. I'm not pushing it down. I'm just gliding it along the paper, and it cuts it perfectly. If you push too hard, you may find that you get ragged edges. So the next thing I'm going to do is score this piece of paper. This is American size, 8.5 by 11. So I cut it at 5.5. Now I'm going to score it at 4.25. And the scoring blade does not go very far in. That's because if you have a thinner paper, the cardstock is heavier. If you had a thinner paper and the scoring blade was very deep, it would cut that thinner paper. This way it doesn't, but when I go to use it on a piece of cardstock, I'll have to go over a couple of times in order to get it to score it well for me. So that is tool number one. Then since I have this score there, I want to use my bone folder to make that score line nice and tight. And this is a very well loved one. I have used it to help me re-ink and I've had it a lot of years. But bone folder is great. It helps get the folds nice and crisp. And like I said, I've got a little jar where I'm putting things I use all the time right on my table. And now we've got the card. Okay, that is the card base, and this is a cherry cobbler. I will have on my blog all of the details for the card that I'm making today. I put that all the time on my blog, so feel free to look over there. I've got measurements, I've got everything that was used on the blog. So the next thing I'm going to do with this card today is I'm going to stamp the inside of my card. And oh, you know what? I forgot, because this is kind of a fancy fold card. So I am going to bring this in, and I'm going to score a second time. This section here, I'm going to score a second time. So half of 4 1/4 would be 2 1/8. I'm going to score it at 2 1/8. All right, now I'm done with this scoring and cutting trimmer. Now I'm going to use my bone folder again, and I'm going to get this nice and crisp. Here we go. Now I'm done. All right, and you can see already how my fancy fold is going to work. I've got a little bit of the crushed curry, and then we're going to talk about adhesives. I'm using today the Mono liquid glue. It is a multi-purpose liquid glue, and I'm going to make sure the glue is at the tip here. I store it upside down so that it's at the tip. And then I'm going to put this inside of the card, centering it. So I will smooth it down, and then this is going to be the inside where I'm going to stamp something. So the card, the stamp set I'm going to use to stamp inside is called Silly Goose. It has the cutest birthday sentiments because I'm making a birthday card. I really like this little goose with the balloon, and I like this Silly Goose told me it's your birthday, so that's what I'm using on this one. And because this stamp set is photopolymer, I'm going to be needing something to help it have a little give. And so this is the adhesive was tool number 3. Let's see, the trimmer was tool number 1. This is a second tool that I use, number 2. Different adhesives would be number 3. And then the next thing I'm talking about is a paper piercing mat. So I have used this mat for years. You can see I've got lots of holes in it because I have used it for paper piercing. However, it is not something that you know, when I'm making bows during Christmas time or birthdays, I use it for making my bows. I have a video about that on my YouTube channel if you want to check that out. And I use it for when I'm putting brads in a project or something like that, but really otherwise I tend to use this when I'm using my photopolymer stamps more than anything because the photopolymer doesn't have rubber behind it. This is a rubber back, and it's got backing on it. It's got a little bit of a foam backing on it, which helps it have some give when you are stamping on paper. This doesn't have that. It simply has the rubber on it, the plastic, the photopolymer that you can see through, so that's wonderful, but it doesn't have any of that give. This helps with the give and makes it so your images will come out nice and crisp. I'm going to ink up the goose from the Silly Goose who's holding a balloon. I'm going to put that little goosey right there, and it is a very nice crisp image, as you can see. Then the words that I'm going to use are "A silly goose told me it's your birthday." And I'm just gonna, since I can see where I'm stamping with this, I like that. And I'm going to put it, I think, right here above. Closing up the memento ink. All right, so got that done. And then let's see, I'm also going to use another tool here. Let's bring this back out because I'm going to stamp on this piece of paper. The next thing that I really like to use is grid paper, because when I'm going to be stamping off of something and I don't want to have it all on the paper, I like to use some grid paper. It helps protect my surface. And you can see I stamped off on it. I also use it to help line things up. I use it for measurements a lot of the times. You can see it's got a ruler on there going from 1 to 10 inches. And from here it's to 8. It comes in large sizes and different types of things on it. On the other side is centimeters. And so that's very nice to have centimeters. And it has quarters marked. So it's very, very handy, and I use this a lot. So that is another go-to tool that gets used a lot. Now I can put the ink away. The next go-to tool would be paper snips. I'm going to use these and fussy cut these couple of items out. I've got the balloon on here. I've got the little birthday hat on here, and the paper that I use is from Meandering Meadows, or Meadow, maybe it's a singular meadow, I don't know. But the paper snips are incredible for fussy cutting, for cutting large projects, because they're very, very sharp, and they are a smaller size, very comfortable on the hand. And when you fussy cut, you cut right outside of the image. And I can go right into a teeny tiny spot with these because of that very, very sharp point on the end. When our kids were in school doing projects, I think I had like 10 different pair of paper snips because they were constantly borrowing them and using them for school projects. They are such great little tiny scissors, and the funny thing is I still find these in drawers that I had no idea that paper snips have been put into that drawer. But there they are. They'll be in a drawer, and I'll go, okay. Well, it's nice to find another pair of paper snips. They must be in this drawer for a reason. All right, so almost done with fussy cutting the little birthday hat. And then the little edge right here. All right, so I'm pretty happy with how the little hat is turning out here. There, that's good. One more little spot, so you cut right outside the inked lines of the image. Okay. There. Okay. That's going to go on the little goose. Not going to cover his eyeballs like I just did though. Here we go. And then the balloon. Also just fussy cut this super quickly. Probably be faster than the hat was. I don't know. And when you're fussy cutting, what you turn is the paper. You kind of keep the scissors in the same spot. It allows you to keep the continuous cutting and keep from having any kind of edges when you're cutting. Here we go, all the way around. And the balloon. Cutting it out. And now the bottom of the balloon where it is fastened, it keeps the air in. Yeah, that was quicker. And that will go right there. So, all right. Setting these aside. And the paper snips. I think we're done with those for the moment. Next thing I'm going to use is another adhesive. This adhesive is the glue dots, mini glue dots, which are handy for little tiny things. So another tool is the Take Your Pick tool. I use this tool a lot. I'm going to pick up the tiny little hat, and using the Take Your Pick tool, I'm putting the glue dot onto it, folding it over, and the glue dot and the take or pick tool allow me to be more precise and get things exactly where I want them to be. The take or pick tool has lots of different accessories that come with it. It has a little tool that helps get chads out of when you are doing a die cut. It has lots of intricate parts and pieces to it. It'll help you get that out. It's like a little brush. It also has a little end that is like sticky that I use when I'm getting things like sequins or pretty embellishments off. And it has like a spatula side. I don't use the spatula too often. Sometimes I use the spatula to help me get items off, like embellishments, but I don't use that very often. Usually I'll use the pick, or I use the little glue sticky part. It comes apart there and has like a little glue end here that's sticky, so you can pick up elements with that. All right, that's all done and decorated, so I'm going to use some adhesive on the back and adhere it to the card. Not much glue being used. I don't know if you can hear me scraping it across, but I am. All right, so that's the inside of the card. Actually decorating that first. Now I'm going to take the outside of the card, and I'm going to have a little bit of the designer series paper that I was talking about earlier. It's from the Meandering Meadow. Putting it onto a piece of crushed curry. Adhere that down. Now I've got this piece here. I want to be sure that the front panel covers the inside, because I want it to kind of be a surprise when people are opening it. So you can see how I put it on here, and what I'm going to do is turn it over so I know where to put my adhesive. So I line it up with the paper that's underneath, and I can see my fold is right here. I'm going to put the adhesive on this side. And then I will turn it over, and I can just put it right over top, hiding that inside bit, but I know the adhesive is only right here. All right. Okay, so let's decorate the front really quickly. I have a piece of the basic white that I've cut, and this time I'm using from the Go-To Greetings stamp set, the largest happy birthday, because I wanted something nice and big that has a big flourish on it to be all happy and happy birthday-ish. I'm using the Cherry Cobbler ink pad and inking that up, laying it down on here, and I think that's going to be basically straight. Yeah, ooh, that's so pretty. Closing that, and again I'm going to use the paper snips and do a little bit of a, what's that called, a banner on it. So I cut into the bottom here, and from the edge up to where I had just cut, I'm going to take the paper snips right up there, turn it over, and do the same thing on the other side. And now the other end. Snip into it from the edge to where I just cut. Take that off. I have to turn it over. This is the best way for me to do it. You may have a different technique, but that's what works for me. Oops. All right, and now I've got a little banner that I have snipped basically, and cleaning up my workspace. I tend to try to move things out of the way as soon as I'm done. And another adhesive I'm going to use at this point are Stampin Dimensionals. So I am going to lift this up. I think I use Dimensionals on pretty much every project. It's pretty rare that I don't have dimensionals on something. Take the backing off. Now onto this pretty fun fold card, and a little bit higher than halfway down. I think that's kind of straight. How's that look? Nice. And then I'm going to bring in an embellishment. I've got Neutrals Adhesive-Backed Sequins. I haven't used these yet, so I'm so excited to open it up. I thought they would look really pretty with this. Let's see, what color should we use? How about if we try this copper looking one? It's kind of a bronzy copper. And then with the take your pick tool, see how it lifts that right up. And then I'm going to use it for this one too. And I'll put a sequin right there. And then I think another big sequin that I'll put right there, kind of a triangular pattern. All right, so there we go. Let's see if we can go through those tools again. What were they? I have got the trimmer is one of the most important tools to use with paper crafting. Helps you with cutting. You may have a different type of trimmer you like. Of course, I like Stampin' Up's the best. I've been through a lot of trimmers, and they really do have a lot of good things on their trimmer. I also have the, and this is not in any particular order, and I may have it in a different order than I have before. So then the paper piercing mat. The take your pick tool has lots of different tops that can go with it. We've got adhesives, lots of different types of adhesives that you can use. Got the glue dots as well. Bone folder. Bone folder is huge. Paper snips are very important. And also grid paper. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things that I use all the time. And I forgot the Stampin Seal is one of the adhesives. It's personally my favorite, but I'm almost out, so I'm waiting for more of that to come in. Oh, there's also tear and tape adhesive. Beautiful, wonderful, wonderful adhesive. So and when you are stamping with the photopolymer or even the rubber stamps, the red rubber stamps, you're going to need to have, what are these called? A base to put it on. And they come in lots of different sizes. I like Stampin' Up's. They have like a grip to make it easy to use. Also in their kits, they will give you these. You'll get one of these if you get a kit, or even the paper pumpkin. And it's usually a bigger one like this, or even a little bigger, and it's flat. It isn't chunkier like this, but it's flat, and those work just fine as well. So yes, these are good. And then of course, me as your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, or someone else who's a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. So here we go with the card. I also did it in a blue. So fun cards to make with all these very simple tools. And these are the things, like I said, that I use all the time. That's it. Those are all the tools that I use pretty much constantly when I am stamping. These are the things that are really handy to have, and they make it easier. You can use a plain piece of paper if you want instead of grid paper. I've done that when I've been at work and I've needed to do a card really quickly. I took everything in a bag with me to work so I could make a card, a thank you card maybe for a boss, and didn't have grid paper, so I just used a piece of copy paper or printer paper that I grabbed out of my printer. You don't have to have all these different things if you don't want to. I've used a pen instead, or scissors, an edge of scissors instead of the bone folder. So you can make do with other things. These just make it easier if you want. It's a way to keep it simple and easy, and I'm here to answer any questions that you have to help you out. I'm one of those tools. So I hope you consider using me as your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Again, my name is Julia. I am Northeast Ohio. I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day and that you have a chance to get inky. Bye.